All right, so we are live. Welcome back to the Savage Podcast, and today is going to be a video containing our top 5 favorite TV shows of 2020.
Yep.
As Harry mentioned before, this entire 2020 was a quarantine time, so TV was an absolute must to get through the year. Having said that, it still was hard for me to pick memory-wise, but
Sure.
so I guess we decided we're going to go all the way through, right? Do all our 5s, all our 4s, all our 3s, all our 2s, all our 1s. How do you want to do honorable mention? You want to do those now?
Let's say we start with those now. What do you think, Brian? You want to start with the honorable mentions?
Let's do that.
Okay, who do we want to start with today?
Brad, you take it with honorable mentions.
I can dive into my honorable mentions. My first, I had like a total of about 9 shows that I had watched. One of them, the 9th show, I've only watched like about 2 episodes of it, and that was Harley Quinn. That was my first honorable mention. And that was, I just wanted to bring that up because the 2 episodes I watched, the first 2 episodes were really good. Like, I've heard a lot of people saying like it's bad, and I've heard like a lot of people saying they loved it. And I wasn't sure where I would kind of land on that show, but
it's like
I'm
hot and cold. The receptions has been hot and cold. Either they loved it or they hate it.
Yeah, it seems real polarizing, but it looks like a show that I'll really dig because I love all the DC animated stuff that they've done, and this seems like kind of an R-rated version of those. You know what I mean? And the humor is it's crass, it's crude, and I think that's what's surprising people and turning a lot of people off. But since the show centers around mostly villains, to me that kind of like works. You know, that they're doing that type of humor. And I'm looking forward to seeing more episodes. So that's kind of another reason I put it down low on my list. And then you want me to just run through, or are we skipping around on honorable mentions?
No, you can do all your honorable mentions.
And then like on and then number 8 was that Transformers War for Cybertron Earthrise series that was on Netflix. It's a fun show. I mean, it's definitely if you're a Transformers fan, like I loved the animation. It really did look like, if ever there was a show that was like Transformers has always had the cartoon has always had the reputation for being a commercial for the toys. And if ever, that was true, that's the case of this show because it literally looks like the toys, being animated on screen. You know what I mean? The storyline was pretty good, though. I mean, a lot of the voice actors were decent. I don't think there's any of the OG voice actors, but the new ones are really good. It's a fun storyline. If you're a Transformers fan, I highly recommend it. And that's on Netflix. And then number 7 was Cobra Kai. And that one, I loved the first 2 seasons, and season 3 came out on the season. Well, technically, season 3 came out January 1st, but anyway, the first 2 seasons premiered on Netflix this year, or 2020, and that show was really amazing. I mean, it's really really good. If you're a fan of the Karate Kid series, I mean, I highly recommend it. It's definitely the best. That's kind of like, that show should be like a roadmap for people who are rebooting a series. You know what I mean? Because it's like they've done a really good job. The first 2 seasons especially were the best ones. The newest 3rd season that's out, I thought it was kind of not as good. You know what I mean? But still consistent. With the first 2 seasons. And then my number 6 and last honorable mention was the Looney Tunes cartoons on HBO Max. I'm going to count that as a show, even though they're kind of like, shorts. But the way they package them, they're kind of like, a 20-minute long episode, I guess, or something like that.
Yeah.
But that's that's they've done a really great job of bringing back the Looney Tunes here, like because they've done a lot of things with Looney Tunes in the past, and a lot of times it never really for me personally it never hits the mark because it's always like the joke, the humor just doesn't really fit with those characters because they try to modernize it or they try to do they kind of like stray too far away from the original formula. But this show is kind of like a return to the original formula, and it feels like you're watching those classic shorts.
It's a ballsy move on Warner Brothers' part to go that route.
Yeah, for sure. And even a lot of the humor, it's almost like reminiscent of like a lot of the humor is very. It's not so traditional. I mean, the gags and stuff are traditional, but they're doing like new and different creative takes on those traditional gags that you've seen. So it's not like rehashing the same thing over and over with Looney Tunes. Like they're doing new things with it. They're doing new, they're making the old stuff new again, I guess is what I'm trying to say. That's one of the things I love about it. And the main thing is that the characters are true to themselves. When you watch it, it feels like Bugs Bunny, it feels like Daffy Duck, it feels like Porky Pig, and all the characters that you've come to love. So honestly, I probably would put that up higher on my list if it was a traditional show, but since it's kind of like shorts, I mean, I don't really like consider it technically a TV show, you know what I mean? So that's
it's almost like a tease. It's almost like a tease instead of a full-blown series. They give you bites.
Yeah,
and that's the potential's there, but they didn't go all the way.
Yeah, it kind of like is almost tied with my.
It was probably them testing the market to see if those characters still have a place in today's audience's hearts or not. Is there enough of the 40-old, the 50-plus old, and their families that are going to pay attention still? Do those characters still appeal or not?
Yeah, and I think they do. I think they'll be appealing to the old the parents and the kids, you know what I mean, or just the animation fans like me, you know what I mean. So,
animation junkies.
To me, it's going to appeal to every one of those demographics. So I'm hoping they just dropped a bunch of new episodes. I'm hoping they continue to keep making them for the next few years. I mean, I'm really digging them. So that's all my honorable mentions, guys. That's it.
All right, Kev, I'll go with mine. First off is one that I know that was super near and dear to your heart, and I enjoyed it so much. And I'm just sorry it didn't make the cut of my top 5. It was a very good introductory season, and that's Solar Opposites, exclusive to Hulu. And you have Justin Roiland, the voice of Rick and Morty. He's the one alien, and then you got Terry, his buddy. The voice of him is the guy from Silicon Valley. So I love that dude, the guy that developed the app, so the Verizon guy.
Yeah.
So he's Terry, and I'm a big fan of his. Like, he's got a new show on CBS called Be Positive. So I've been watching that, and my wife and I that's really good. It's like a Chuck Lorre produced sitcom. So what more can you ask for? So that's one to keep an eye out for this year. But I had to put Solar Opposites on my runner-up, but I really loved it. It was so funny. I love the little side story of the people living in the wall. I feel like just those characters alone could carry their own show if they ever got a spinoff, like just a series about in the wall. So really awesome cartoon. Another runner-up would be The Outsider. That's HBO Max / HBO. And that is set in the Stephen King universe. It's got Ben Matheson. He was the guy that played Krennic in Rogue One. Very, very good series. Lots of potential for another season down the line. The casting was expert. I mean, the way Jason Bateman has a little small role in it too. He's not in it for long, but the people that are in it are great. So I highly recommend checking it out if you haven't looked. Anyone who loves anything Stephen King should check out The Outsider. So that's HBO. And then another one I want to bring up that I think all of us, this is something that brought so many people together from both sides of like politics and beliefs, and that's the Tiger King. He didn't make my top 5, but now we know that docu-series can be massive successes on these services. Docu-series, everyone wants to be the next Joe Exotic now because of the fame, like world recognition overnight when this thing dropped, and just the word of mouth and the reactions of actual celebrities that were talking about it. And no one could just, it's like a card wreck and you can't turn your head. You want to see what happens next. It felt like it was written, but it was, something that actually happened. So Tiger King's on that list of my runner-up. So, and that's all I got.
All right, so I'll jump into my honorable mentions. I only have a few, and these could easily be interchangeable with a couple of my top 5. It was that close. It was a very hard decision, but ultimately this is the list I made. So my honorable mentions is going to be Supernatural, Umbrella Academy, and Dracula. These 3, I just really enjoyed all 3 of these shows. I thought they were wonderful. So that tells you a lot about the top 5 for Supernatural. I've been a fan for the whole 15 years, I think.
Is that how long? How many seasons now? 15?
15.
And it's over, yeah.
They ended it this year.
They did. 15 was the end. Yeah.
I just recently I forget which season it was, but I just recently saw the Scooby-Doo episode.
Oh yeah. I think that was like 12ish or 13ish.
Yeah, it was really good. Like, I mean,
you enjoyed it?
I know enough about Supernatural. Like, I've probably seen about 2. I mean, when a show's been on that long, you're bound to see at least 2 or 3 episodes.
Right.
And I knew enough about the show to get it, you know what I mean, to get the jokes,
the gist of what was going on,
the supernatural stuff. I mean, because of course I got the Scooby stuff, but that was a fun episode. And the animation they did on it was great. They didn't cheap out on that episode. It was awesome.
Yeah. The Dracula was only like 4 episodes. I was hoping for more.
Yeah. That's done by the same people that did the Sherlock series with Cumberbatch.
Oh,
so
really?
they do these really long, like movie style episodes. It's like each episode is like a movie. That's why there's only 3 of them, because they're an hour and a half, 2 hours each.
Is that on Netflix? That Dracula
it is.
Series? I need to watch that because
it's must watch.
It's really good.
Definitely must watch.
All 3 movies kind of tie it, right?
Yeah, I like that approach where it's like, 3 movies.
And same production team of Sherlock, but set in the Dracula universe, and it's done so masterful. I mean, tasteful, and like the camera and like just the props they used when they were in like the old century stuff, like how believable it was. The castle, the sets.
Oh, so it's a period piece. It's a period piece.
Oh, well, it goes modern times too. I mean, not to ruin it for you. It's everything. It's a very enclosed story.
Even more now. That intrigues me even more. That's really good.
You got to check it out. It's must watch. It's worth
I'll have to watch that.
Giving up some of your cartoon time to watch it, I promise.
That sounds great to me, man.
Same thing with Umbrella Academy. It had a lot of plots and twists and time travel, and there's a lot going on for geeks that enjoy that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
it was like a cult following with Umbrella Academy. There's like an underground of non-mainstream people that love comics, and they want to support something like Umbrella Academy, as opposed to all the Marvel and DC stuff they've just been slammed with. They like to support these smaller other projects, and I don't get the appeal in it personally. I haven't watched a single episode, but I mean, the numbers don't lie. I mean, the demand for a second season, the amount of subscriptions that went up. This thing made a lot of money for Netflix. It was a winning jackpot for them.
It's crazy that we live in a time where there's so much like comic book and pop culture themed stuff. That's on the air. Like
nerds and geeks are the number one viewer type now.
There's like so much of it, like I can't get to all of it. Like I never thought I would. I never thought I would live in a time like that. Because
quarantine afforded that to some of us who were non-essential. Quarantine afforded that free time of being laid off or having
Right.
the ability to have more downtime or not going out because you couldn't go out. So
Right.
people that don't regularly binge were binging because there was nothing else to do. They were going mad in their house. So.
Yeah. That's true.
Maybe possibly the one benefit of coronavirus.
The one benefit, yeah. We got to sit back and catch up on stuff.
So you didn't have no downtime. You were in New York on the front lines.
Yeah, I didn't have a whole lot of time to watch TV during that month.
Only when you were getting in between being released to come out or not. Like if you had to wait for a test and stuff is when you
I got that. Well, the state of Texas, regardless of whether you were positive or negative, if you were coming from New York, you had to do quarantine no matter if you're or not.
Right. It was like you could have faced jail time if you had broken that.
Right.
So.
Yeah, the DPS showed up at the airport and threatened me, so it was fun. But it was a nice little vacation, though, the 2 weeks at home.
Yeah. It's crazy.
So that's our honorable mentions, huh?
Right. All good shows, all worth checking out. If you're in a show hole, if you're in a rut, everything we just talked about is worth checking out if you have any of the mentioned streaming services. Before we get to our top 5, I would just like to mention, let's talk about the fact that this day and age, you don't have to have traditional cable anymore to watch the hottest shows now. It's all about the streaming services now in this country, in the world, really, in this new format of watching when you have time on your own schedule. Whether they're going to do like Mandalorian chooses to do a weekly release instead of giving you the whole series, people would binge it that night and spoil everything. Right. So they have to do the time release. But most shows do give you the whole series right off the bat, like the whole season's presented to you. It's changed the game on how consumers and regular folks can watch shows on their own time without having to be at the mercy of a TV schedule.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I would almost say appointment television is pretty much dead at this point. Like, as far as like, oh, hey, at 7:30, I gotta like watch so and so. You know, it's like
not bound by time restrictions anymore.
I don't think really anyone does that anymore. So it's definitely changed the game.
Yeah.
You want me to dive into
start with
number 5?
Number 5.
Number 5.
All right. So my number 5 was HBO Max series, animated series called Close Enough.
Okay.
And I want to bring this up, and I wanted to put it on my top 5 because I haven't heard a lot of people talking about the show.
I've never heard of it.
I know I've mentioned it to you guys briefly. The show is called Close Enough is the name of it. And it's made by the show creator, J.G. Quintel, the guy that did Regular Show.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was Regular Show.
I was a huge Regular Show fan.
Yeah.
It was one of those series that I was like, when I first saw it, I was like, I don't know about this. This is dumb. And then like they started making all these 80s references and the like crazy, outlandish like.
And it had your heart at that point.
Yeah, and it was like so silly and goofy. Like it was kind of like it kind of hit my humor sensibilities perfectly,
Well, before you go deeper into that, how do you compare Regular Show and Adventure Time? Like those two to me seem so similar. Am I drawing that conclusion incorrectly? Because I haven't watched either.
Well, I kind of like discovered both of those shows almost at the same time, Harry. I mean, they had been on the air for a while, and I was kind of like, I would kind of look at them from a distance and like say, these shows are dumb, you know what I mean, without even seeing them,
Casting that judgment on face value.
And yeah, just kind of looking at the art style, because just at face value, like you said, the art style wasn't like that traditional look that I kind of like, But then I watched both of those shows almost like at the same time. I personally like Regular Show better, just because it had a lot more like pop culture references, and it was way more over the top and way more silly, and the characters to me were more appealing, And Adventure Time had all of that, but didn't have as much like pop culture references. It was more of like kind of a general that show was both of those shows are really random is like the way I like to describe them. But Adventure Time was way more random. You know what I mean? Like stuff would just happen.
Right.
and but there wasn't like nothing was ever like kind of like grounded in or like a lot of the plots weren't driven by like references to like old 80s things or just whatever but because it's kind of like a fantastical fanciful world, you know what I mean. But
I find
it's funny.
really
I've
well
only
written.
seen like the first season, but in that season, in Adventure Time, they did make references to certain things that sort of like it kind of like makes you realize that this world isn't what you expect it to be or what you think it is. You know what I mean? This world that they live in. So, but yeah, I'm getting too far in Adventure World or Adventure Time there, but both good shows though. I mean, but I personally I like regular show better. So this show, Close Enough was like kind of right up my alley. Right out of the gate, I was like eager to watch it because I kind of wanted more of that regular show vibe,
Right.
in a series.
You still get the voiceover
Yeah.
artist. You can
Yeah,
hear
I think the only returning one is
Mordecai.
J.G. Quintel himself, the creator.
Mordecai character.
The J.G. Quintel creator. He plays the main character. It's the show's about a couple in their 30s.
Yeah.
And they're raising their like 5-year-old daughter. Essentially, that's it. It's just kind of a boring plot, and the shows like start out with like sort of boring premises, much like regular show would. But then, something happens in an episode, and it escalates to like ridiculous, silliness. You know what I mean? By the end of the episode, like characters like are in another dimension or something stupid like that. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, it's like Josh, Emily, and Candace. Those are the main characters. The father, the wife, and the daughter. And it was originally made for TBS, and it was going to come out in 2017, but they shelved it. And then when like that whole AT&T merger thing happened with HBO Max, they decided to release it this year on HBO Max. But yeah, it's. I mean, like I said, that's pretty much all I have to say about that show. I mean, it's super funny.
Well, you creaked my interest. I want to check it out now because if it made your top 5, I would like to know more. So I'm going to look into it.
Yeah, I mean, but it's like to me, it's like regular show, but it has a slightly more adult, vibe to it. It feels like, regular show on Adult Swim. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I really found regular show to be very intelligently written.
Yeah.
I love the characters coming back and forth throughout the series. Certain storylines, you actually reconnect with that storyline. Like, it was just well written. It wasn't just, like you said, it wasn't a
randomness.
The other one. It was well written, and it came back together many times over with the characters.
Yeah, it's a show. It seemed like it was random, but it had a continuity. It rewarded its viewers. It's one of those shows that would reward the regular fans because as you would watch the series, they would make references to something from like season 2 and like season 5 or whatever. So
right, that's important. That's important in a show's longevity, especially if you're investing the hours of watching and season by season. And if there's no references to the past in this world they've made, then it makes it, what was the point if it doesn't matter? I think that's why the three of us all love Disenchantment so much. Disenchantment has that ongoing bigger storyline in the background that whether a one-off episode happens or not, something is going toward that bigger story in the background. So you're getting that payoff of what the main story of the series is in the background.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a close enough. This is a good first season, I think. It has been renewed for a second season. It's supposed to be.
That's
it's supposed
good
to be coming
sign.
out. I read that it's supposed to come out in February, so it should be hitting HBO.
Could
Max
you
soon.
imagine that director and those animators like going from your show being shelved in 2017 to it giving a second chance on this new platform and then it succeeding and now a second season being ordered?
I mean, I'm sure I was ecstatic because I thought I mean, I remember
It was
watching
going to
the
be
trailer.
one of one. That was it. And that was it. That was all you were going to get.
I mean, they even put out like a trailer or like commercials for it back in 2017. Because I remember seeing them, and then all of a sudden it disappeared. And then I read about it, and I read that it had gotten like postponed or whatever. And I thought, well, that's it. You know, we'll never see it or whatever. But I'm super happy it got a second chance. So I'm sure they're like over the moon about it. You know, so especially with it being renewed for a second season. So. Yeah, man. I think you guys would really like it. I mean, if I know you guys like adult animation, you know, so
yeah,
you guys should add this to your roster of that.
I want to check it out. You got my intrigue for sure.
I've already watched it. I really enjoyed it because, like I said, regular show was such a big deal for me and my wife. Like, we watched it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so good. Not all of them get their own TV movies made, and regular show actually got a movie, TV movie made of it. You know.
Yeah,
that's an accomplishment.
I was pretty sad.
They don't improve the checks for those kinds of things if there's not enough eyes watching it. You know.
Right. Yeah, definitely. It's got to make that money to be worth.
And this show has the same potential, I think. So.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it'll. I just hope that it'll kind of like take off. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about it, so I'm hoping that it's.
Let us know in the comments if you watched Close Enough, or if you've not heard it out. Does hearing what Brett have to say intrigue you to check it out? Because it's winter time, it's quarantine, we're looking for stuff to watch, and that sounds like a great recommendation to me.
And they're pretty digestible shows. I think they're like 15, 20 minutes long or something like that.
Gotcha.
I don't even know if they're that long.
Real easy episodes. It's not a whole right. Okay.
They may even be like 10 minutes long episodes.
I think that's one of the most appealing thing with Solar Opposites too, is it was very quick. And there's not a lot of investment necessary on you to enjoy what it is for what it is.
If I recall, each episode is structured like regular show, and they would have like 2 10-minute episodes each episode.
Yeah.
So cool. It's really digestible. You can just sit down and watch.
I'm excited to try it. I'm excited to check it out. I'm interested. I didn't watch regular show, so this may lead me to wanting to look into regular show.
I think you'll dig both of them, Mary. I think you will. Good.
But I'll go ahead and do my number 5, Kev. I'm going with The Witcher. It's on Netflix, season 1. It came out the very end of December of 2019. So we all were watching it throughout that period last winter before the full-blown pandemic hit. So we knew that coronavirus was a problem and that there were people getting it, and the possibility of catching it was going to be pretty well. We didn't know we were going into a full-blown pandemic at that moment yet. The world was still, like, at the time we were worried about the Australian fires. We were worried about World War III possibly happening. And that was it. We didn't know what was to come. The foreshadowing of the coronavirus, what it was going to truly do, hadn't hit us yet. But The Witcher was an amazing first series. I love the pacing of the episodes. I mean, it got a lot of criticism because people didn't like the way that the story was presented in 2 different time formats. Like you saw Geralt's path, and then you saw the girl's path, and when they eventually meet up. So that threw off some novice watchers, but I think the storytelling was great. I thought the locations they chose to film were very believable, very fantasy-esque, and the landscapes and the cinematography of the show, such a joy. The combat, amazing. Cavill is just having such a good time with this role. The other cast members, all I feel lived up to the roles of these video game characters. It's just amazing that this studio, CD Projekt Red, had made this game based on these books that this author created for computer at first, and then it made it to consoles, and now it's just this bigger than, like, there's a big subculture behind it now. So Witcher is one of those money printing properties now, and I just look forward to season 2. I feel Cavill is an excellent representation of Geralt. I think he does a great job. This is a fun role for him versus previous roles he's done. So he's a great guy to fill those very, very hard to fill shoes of this very unrealistic dude that does what he does, fighting monsters, and he's got a good heart, but he's had a lot of wrong things done to him too. So he's got his reasons to not be so willing to help others when he, doesn't want to. But I think that's the beauty of the character. He's not a goody-goody, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And in a world like that, you can't be a goody-goody and survive. It's just so many forces operating, and so I enjoyed it. I know you loved it. I'd love to see how it ranked on your list.
I think it was the perfect timing for him to take that role because he had just bulked up for Superman, so he had this physique to look like, a warrior to start with. And then he's a great actor, so I think he pulled off. Jumping into my 5, Witcher is number 5 for me as well. I actually picked that. I'm a sucker for sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
So any kind of sci-fi story like that, I'm down. Plus, I already like the guy, the actors. Mm-hmm. It's perfect for me. And you throw in dragons and everything else, and I can't help it.
Yeah. You had me at, him stabbing people in the head with a big sword. When you add dragons to the mix, I'm all in.
That's it, yeah.
I should really check this show out. I probably
it's fun. It's a fun watch, bro.
This sounds like a show I would love, or I would enjoy watching with my brother because he's big into like fantasy.
Yes.
And stuff.
Yes.
I mean, I am too. I like him too, but yeah, it sounds like that would actually I would enjoy this.
It's basically Game of Thrones, but catered to gamers.
Yeah.
With gaming culture, and I think. What do you think of the choreographed fighting in it, Kev? Like, talk about like the swords, like the battle scene.
It was excellently done. It didn't look amateur by any means. When they did have fights, they were great.
So believable, the effects.
The characters like his force, like that little girl, the little slave girl that
Ciri. Yeah.
Becoming a big deal. She was an awesome character.
Yeah. It's got some good. It's got some depth to it, Brad. It'd be worth. If you don't love it after the first episode, it's not for you. You'll know by one episode whether you're invested or not.
Would you say this is like the best video game?
It's got to be in that conversation of a game product becoming a movie, TV / production thing on film, on camera. Yeah. Then it's got to be on that conversation. There's very little. I mean, outside of, I think the most successful video game, anything to TV or movie in the world, is not even based on a real video game. I think Wreck-It Ralph is the best game to movie translation ever, and it's not even based on a real video game. But I love the way they captured the essence of the characters of video games and how we live our lives through these characters on these games throughout the generations. As graphics and technology have advanced, our love of playing video games, high scores, beating games, all these different things, like what are you getting out of all the time you're pouring into this? Is the satisfaction, getting to the end point, what's the reward? And I think Wreck-It Ralph will always hold that pedestal. I don't know what's going to dethrone it, but Witcher's definitely in the conversation.
I like it. I enjoyed stuff like World of Warcraft. I mean, Witcher's better, but
yes, by far.
Movie, but still.
It's funny you would say that, Kevin. I would probably say Warcraft was probably like, to me, almost like one of the best, video game as far as like movies or TV shows. And I'm not even a big Warcraft. I never played Warcraft.
Right. Yeah, but a lot of people would pay. A lot of people would pay good money if Blizzard would do their FMV videos that they do in the games and do that in an hour-long, 2-hour-long feature length. Yeah. With the voice actors that they have, those cinematics, you can watch them on YouTube. Right. They are so, like, that would make so much money in theaters if it was presented in IMAX.
Right.
And made with Blizzard's, storytelling and their technology and the film quality of their FMVs. Those would be blockbuster without any actual actors other than the voice actors.
That's true. That's 5.
Okay. Moving on. Number 4. My number 4 is Disenchantment. We've already talked about it briefly. It was tough. I had it higher, but I knocked it down. I had it at number 3, but I knocked it down to number 4. Not to, it's not a reflection on the show. I mean, to me, this is I've enjoyed the new season probably, the newest, episodes that have premiered on Netflix. I've probably enjoyed them more than the previous ones that dropped. I don't know. It's just to me, like, now I'm still in the process of watching them. Unfortunately, I've only got about like 2 or 3 episodes left, I think. But so far, it's been like, it seems like more character development in this series or in these episodes, and it's just like I honestly, I think I'm becoming more comfortable with the characters, and I think the actors and the writers are probably becoming more comfortable with the characters too. I think that's part of it. Because at first it was just one of those shows where I didn't immediately love, but it's one of those I've kind of like gradually, grown to like these characters more and more as the series progresses, I guess. But yeah, Elfo, he's been really fun to watch this season. The latest episodes have kind of focused on him a lot, and Bean's past and everything, and it's cool because they've made references to things that have happened in the previous season, in regards to these sort of like references to like the discovery of like certain technologies and things that are like popping up on the show. And I love that type of stuff because it like, and it's even like references to like other series, like other Matt Groening series, you know what I mean? So to me, like they're, because they've made references to both Futurama and The Simpsons on this show. So, and I love that type of stuff because it's sort of like it's almost like world building, you know what I mean? Since these are all like Matt Groening created properties, The Simpsons, Futurama, Disenchantment. So I love it when they sort of like, that's almost like sort of like fan service, they're including that stuff for those people that have watched all these shows over the years, So
yeah, for sure.
And of course, like, I mean, the animation is like phenomenal. It's like definitely one of the best looking shows that Matt Groening has been involved with, and that mostly goes to the to the credit of the animation directors and the artists and stuff that work on the show, not him. But it is a beautiful, beautiful show. If you just watch it just for the animation, like, and even they're doing non-traditional things with like the background art, because often you don't see much, you don't see a lot of inked outlines and stuff used in background art in animation. It's usually just painted artwork that's used, but they're actually using like hand drawn and the artwork has like a line quality to it, to where it looks like it's drawn with like brushes and stuff like that. So I mean, these are the things that I pay attention to as like an artist myself. Like those things like stand out to me as I'm watching just the series in general. So on many levels, like I've enjoyed every bit of it. So that's that's why it definitely made my top 5 for sure.
I didn't include it in my list because I didn't watch it till January.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll probably be talking about it in the 2021 video, but I really love season 3, and I don't blame it for being on your your number 4. It's an awesome series, and I can't wait for more. And it feels like the wait between season 2 and 3 seemed endless, but then we got it, and now here we are back in the boat of when will we get season 4 now? Will it be 2 years? Will it be a year? I hope it's just 1. My number 4 is Rick and Morty season 4. And this is a show that is still being released on traditional cable TV via Adult Swim. However, you can stream it on the streaming services. You can watch it at Hulu. You can watch it with HBO Max. But traditional cable TV via Adult Swim, the Cartoon Network channel, you're getting this show released live on Sundays. You remember last year, Kevin, as we were waiting like for the new episode, it was like 10:30, or it's like that weird time slot they give it on Sundays, and
Right.
like we couldn't wait for the new episode to drop. But I know that season 4 divided the fan base a lot. There was a lot of criticism because the direction of the show is evolving. The characters are evolving. Morty is becoming more confident, less of a side character. Summer is getting a little more love, a little more, time of the episodes. The evolution of Beth and Rick's relationship changing. Like he goes from getting the husband kicked out of the house to him coming back, and Beth is putting more restrictions on Rick on his relationship with Morty. So I know this was a growing season for the overall story they're telling, but I couldn't get enough, and I love of the entire season 4. I really love the heist episode. That one really resonated with me. I love the heist. I thought that was the greatest episode of the season, and then the finale was pretty freaking awesome too. Like at the very end of the finale, I caught feels for Rick. That's how well written and the way it played out, like it emotionally had me. And this is an adult comedy, and there's so many Rick and Morty knockoffs that are being developed by studios because they want to ride the wave of the popularity and the marketability. There's all these corporations that are greenlighting these little animation studios. We need a Rick and Morty wannabe kind of thing. Get it out there. And so you see all these other companies releasing these type shows to ride that wave that this genre, that this show has taken that genre and brought it through the mainstream hole. And it's interwoven into pop culture now. There are people that don't watch these shows who know who Rick and Morty are because it's that big. They've transcended the subculture, and now they are commonly known among TV viewers, whether you're into this kind of show or not. So for me, I mean, that's why I picked Rick and Morty season 4, number 4.
Yeah, you put it on TV, and they're doing potato chip commercials. And
It's
a big deal. It's almost like
several advertisers, PlayStation 5, Wendy's, sponsorships from everyone. The marketability of Rick and Morty. I mean, it's just Pringles. Pringles did one with them.
Single-handedly got us the Szechuan sauce back, limited at McDonald's.
Yeah, and you couldn't get it anywhere. It was that popular.
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and move on to my number 4. I feel like we're pretty much not too far off with our overalls. My number 4 is Solar Opposites.
Okay. I figured it would be in your top 5. Yeah. I know it resonated so high with you. You loved it.
Again, I think it was well written. I think they're starting to really develop the characters better. One of my favorite parts of that show is the story within the story.
Mm-hmm.
You know how the wall story that is really kind of taken off, and people. I've heard of people wanting to see that on its own spinoff. That's how well developed that part of the story is.
Yes.
But I really enjoyed it. It's a bummer that it was 8 episodes. Went too damn quick, but I enjoyed it a lot. I like the characters. I enjoyed it. I like the pretty much simple storyline, but it's really complex when you kind of dive into it. I love the little back and forth between these two aliens and the HOA, Homeowners Association. That is so funny.
Right.
But yeah, that'll be my number 4. Really enjoyed it.
Amazing series. I can't wait for more. So funny.
Oh, show. I guess on to number 3, sir.
I'm having a.
You're changing your order right now.
Well,
You're thinking about switching something.
Well, I'm
conflicted.
Trying to figure out if my number 3 came out in 2020 or 2021. It
don't matter. Just go ahead. Whatever it is.
We'll accept it.
We're all friends here, Brad.
I'm just gonna say my number 3 was Animaniacs. I can't remember if
Okay,
came
it
out
was
early this year.
2020. It was indeed 2020.
Okay, I couldn't remember if it came out in the
came
fall
out during
or...
the pandemic. It sure did.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, honestly, I mean, it's really just as simple as like, if you love Animaniacs, like, and if you have Hulu or access to Hulu, I mean, like, you watch it. I mean, it's just like they didn't. It's almost like, you know, they didn't. There was a 20-year gap between the last season and this season. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or a 22-year gap or whatever it was. You know, so they just picked up where they left off, in my opinion. I mean, I guess my only probably critiques were like they didn't include the original one of the original like main like showrunners and producers, and I think he also like wrote a lot of the original songs too, or co-wrote a lot of the original songs. Like, his name was Tom Ruegger. He was a big part of that show. And unfortunately, they didn't include him on this reboot. So
that was their choice by decision to not include him.
Well, I follow him on Facebook, and he said like he was surprised by everyone else when they announced
he was not asked to be part of it.
He wasn't asked. He wasn't approached. You know what I mean? So I feel that was a big mistake. You know, and I think the show would be like 10 times better if he were. Because my biggest critique was the music isn't as good as it was, like the songs, you know, because they do like some songs, you know, because music was a big part of the original show.
Have you watched it, Kev? Have you watched any of it?
Not of the new stuff. I used to love it.
I watched the first one with Sam. She's way less critical of shit than I am because I'm a massive nerd. Yeah. And she like laughed twice. Like, we just did not find it.
Right.
We loved the show growing up. We both that's one of the few cartoons she got to watch growing up. And I always watched cartoons, but the very few cartoons she could watch, she loved Animaniacs. And maybe we should have gave it more than one episode, but that very first episode, not even the Pinky and the Brain segment made us laugh.
Right.
Like, we were so like, we were trying to laugh, but there was not the same sense of, like, they had lost whatever the luster was of the past. Like, this new version just felt so corporate and so forced that maybe I should give it another episode a try.
I would at least like watch a couple more episodes, Harry, because honestly, to me personally, the weakest episode was the first episode.
Is the first. No wonder. Well, that's rough.
Because they spend the majority of the episode doing a lot of you know,
retelling.
It's almost like, you know, too much self-referential stuff. You know what I mean? Because I normally like that type of thing, but it's almost like they went
overboard on the amount of it. They could have just sprinkled some, not full blown.
It was to me it was like self-indulgent, if that makes sense, because it almost felt like, you know, they were a little too boastful about, like, you know, hey, we're so funny, we're coming back. You know what I mean? Like with those jokes and stuff, but. And they were the whole episode. The whole first episode was kind of like just a series of like reboot jokes. You know what I mean? Jokes about rebooting. You know, and they. So
you're saying it's worth powering through that and sticking. There is some funny stuff down the line if you.
Because they even do like a reboot song in that episode too. But then after that, they kind of like they're done with the reboot jokes. You know, they kind of like stop making those references, and then it's just like. Back to normal, you know, after that. You know, all the episodes after that are just kind of like typical Pinky and the Brain and typical Animaniac stuff, you know. So that was like the only kind of negative things for me was the music not as good. I mean, the songs are okay, but they're just not as good. They should have really brought in Tom Ruegger, you know, because he really, like, you know, he was a big part of that show's success, and I think he really, you know, should have been involved. But and then, like I said, if you can get past all those reboot jokes after that first episode, and I like the fact that they not only are doing the, you know, the typical things that you know for Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain, but they do you know, new things also. They're trying to, because, you know, there were always like offshoot characters like, you know, Chicken Boo and you know, like other, like, you know, Mindy and Buttons and that type of thing. You know what I mean? And they tried to do a couple of new things like that. They brought in some like new sort of like recurring characters that they introduced on the show, and I like that. I like it because Animaniacs was always doing that. They were always bringing in new kind of characters and things like that. And there's a really funny Chicken Boo episode or reference that they do that's like worth, like, if you're a fan of like Animaniacs,
the payoff of the Chicken Boo skit is
it's
well
very
worth
very
it.
funny. Like, to me, I was like laughing my ass off at that.
Those were some of the funniest of the past version, was the Chicken Boo ones for sure.
Yeah, so it's yeah, it's a lot of fun. You know what I mean? Like, it's they have, you know, the Pinky and the Brain are doing their thing. You know, the Animaniacs are kind of, they find some character and then they just annoy them the whole episode. It's that typical formula that you're used to. That really didn't change much. So I would highly suggest at least watch at least one or two more episodes.
Okay.
And
I will
get past that.
If
that
it made your
episode.
number 3, then I will actually watch another
really,
episode or two.
I just put it that high because I'm such an Animaniacs fan. I'm happy that it's back. And the animation is like amazing. Like, it's really, really nice. It looks gorgeous. Like, it looks amazing. So,
me and the wifey love when we get our old 90s, 80s cartoons come back like that. The one for us that was a big deal was Rocko's Modern Life.
Mm-hmm.
Got that recent reboot, I think, a year ago or so. I think it was a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Can't remember if it was a movie or a new series, but
it was a movie. I watched it, Kev.
Yeah, my wife's a big fan of that, Nickelodeon. Yeah. She enjoyed it.
That was a different time. The world was a better place when Rocko was a Nicktoon.
And Cow Chicken and all those dudes.
Yeah.
And Pinky and the Brain. Like, that was all my favorites.
My favorite
Funky
Powerpuff Chicks.
My favorite Nicktoon was the Angry Beavers.
Those
Angry
are the
Beavers.
Because they were brothers, so I related a lot to that show. Because they were always like fighting with each other and stuff like that.
All Real Monsters was another good one.
Real Monsters were good.
That one I never watched. I never saw that.
You never got into Real Monsters? That's some funny shit. I really liked Crumb, the one that held his own eyeballs. I loved him. Yeah. He was my favorite.
Yeah, the visuals on that show were cool. The designs were really neat.
The toys are pretty awesome too. They have vintage toys though.
I liked Hey Arnold. That show was all right.
Hey Arnold was good. They came out with a movie too, didn't they? A newer movie.
Yeah, they did. I don't think I saw that one, but yeah.
Hey Arnold had a huge cult following. There was a big generation.
I like Doug.
12-year-olds that became 20-somethings that just loved. They brought it into hip hop and all this clothing culture and all these, like the love of Hey Arnold was like carried a generation of millennials into the adulthood.
Yeah, and Dan Castellaneta, he did the voice of the grandpa character on the show. So he's done 2 famous grandpas.
He was grandpa on Rugrats?
On Hey Arnold.
Oh, Hey Arnold.
Yeah.
Well, was he grandpa else then? On what else?
Grandpa Simpson.
Oh, Grandpa Simpson.
Abe Simpson.
Excellent. Gotta love Grandpa Simpson. He's hilarious.
I should have mentioned Simpsons on my
honorable mention.
Yeah, honorable mentions. I feel bad as a big Simpsons
fan.
The
newest season? That they still are making new seasons of that, aren't they?
Yeah, I just
That's crazy.
During the pandemic, I actually finally got caught up on all
the
episodes.
So that's so weird to me, bizarre that it's still in the air.
There's 30. I think they're in season 32 right now, I believe.
That's crazy.
It is nuts. I mean,
I've not watched a new episode in probably since 2018.
I'll be honest. Even as a big, huge Simpsons fan, I feel like the show should have ended years ago. You know.
Yeah.
I feel like, and this is a great, point in the discussion to bring this up, because I feel like, with all these like reboots and everything happening, like it's fun to like rediscover these old shows that you remember, like from the 90s or whatever.
Yeah.
But The Simpsons has never gone away. So I feel like the show needs
Monday Night Raw, The Simpsons, and Cops, and now Cops is gone. So now you just have Raw and Simpsons.
I feel like what you're saying, Harry, like no one really watches the show anymore. and no one really cares about it. No one talks about it. So I feel like it needs to go away.
It
so
needs to be let down mercifully, like taken out of its
let it respectfully.
This kind, exactly.
It needs to go away so it can be appreciated.
Yeah, and then come back later on.
Reboot it.
You know, you're right. Like I don't know the storylines. I've just
I haven't watched a new one in ages.
I don't care for them no more. But for some reason, the Treehouse of Horrors is still my favorite.
Yeah, those are worth checking out. Like
I'll say two things about the new any new episode of The Simpsons. The show has never looked better. The animation is phenomenal. And the other cool thing is at least they're still trying to do creative things with the show, like because they're always doing like weird, like new, like couch gags and stuff with
they'll integrate other shows and pop culture into the couch scene. Like they did one for Game of Thrones, and they did one for.
And they for a while there they were doing they were having guest animators come in, so like they had John K.
Oh, that's a neat one.
Bill Plimpton is a famous animator. He's like an independent animator. He did 2 or 3 of them.
That's a neat idea.
So and like also with the Treehouse of Horror episodes, they're always doing crazy fun stuff. So at least they're trying new things and being creative with the show, and they haven't they're not completely stagnant creatively.
Right.
So that's 2 things that I appreciate about it. But for the most part, I wish it should just go.
Well, even considering those, you still feel like it is beyond time for them to.
It's just not as funny as it used to be.
To shoot old Yeller behind the barn, put him out of his misery.
Yeah. But I'll keep watching it. They keep making them. I'll keep watching them.
I'll go to my number 3, and that is Ozark on Netflix.
That is 3. A show I've wanted to watch. Man, I've heard nothing.
It's worth it, man. And honestly, I would not have gotten into it if it had not been for quarantine. Like the month of March, I was showing symptoms, and I was told to go home with pay. And they would figure something out. This is before they allowed us to work from home. So I had a month off.
Wow.
With pay. Nice. And I was sick. I was getting over. I was super sick. If anyone watches my content, January of last year, I was always sounding sick on my videos because I'm pretty sure I had it. It's just that they weren't testing for it yet. But I was sick, and I had a lot of downtime. The bills were getting paid. I was still, getting paid from my job. I was blessed in that aspect. So what's going on in my mind, looking for something to take my mind off of reality, and Tiger King was big.
Right.
But Ozark season 3 was about to drop, and because I kept hearing all these posts about I can't wait for Ozark season 3, it made me want to go watch season 1 and 2.
Right.
And then I was right there with them, I can't wait to watch 3 now because this show is amazing. And if you haven't given yourself the opportunity, the writing, the acting, Jason Bateman is phenomenal. The subcast members, all great. That part of the country gets so little television shows about life there, and the middle part of the country above Texas, and there's references to Kansas City in it. There's references to Chicago because Ozark is used by both those hubs, for various reasons. And I just find it so fascinating seeing it's a microscope into what is very possibly really happening when it comes to washing money for the cartels in our country. And how that works, and how legitimate businesses get roped into it, whether they are agreeing to do it or they're just forced to do it. So it really puts a microscope to that, kind of the way The Sopranos brought how the modern mafia works to television. Right. This is what Ozark's doing for how the washing and the laundering money for the cartels works. So. Bateman is amazing. He's directed it. He writes it. He stars in it.
I didn't know all that.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah. He's 100% involved in the Like he's the one that wrote the final episode. Like they're stopping at season 4. It's going to be the last season.
Okay.
It was nominated for numerous awards,
Yeah.
acting, supporting acting, the writing. So if you haven't given yourself the chance yet, if you don't love it by the end of season 1, you don't have to waste your time on 2 or 3. You'll know whether you're invested in the characters or not by the end of season 1.
I would probably enjoy it because I've like followed Jason Bateman since like the 80s. I used to love watching
awesome.
him on like
this role is so different than everything else he's been cast in the past. And you see him under pressures that you would never see him in any of his comedic roles or his romantic type movies and stuff of that nature. So it's very, very cool to see him in this car. Marty is his name, this character. And the Birds, Marty Bird. Amazing series, worth checking out. It would be higher on my list, but there's a couple more series I love a little bit more as a geek. The geek in me keeps this at 3, but it's worthy of being a number 1 of 2020. If I had to pick the best non-geek central television show, it would easily be Ozark.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to give that one a chance too because I've just not had the time. I had to pick and choose what I did watch, but it sounds great. But diving into my number 3 is gonna be Rick and Morty.
Okay.
That's one of my favorite animations of all time. I don't know why. I feel tortured by having to wait years in between seasons sometimes.
Yeah, it was a long gap between 3 and 4.
But I really think that, I don't know, there's the comedic presence or the writing of it is really intelligent and funny. They do well. And it's like unique stories. I mean, I can go watch South Park and, you can catch stuff from other animated shows. People have taken from The Simpsons because they're some of the OG. But like this Rick and Morty writing is very unique. I think every single story is very unique. It's one of my faves. I'm glad to also have some action figures to kind of, pay homage to it in my collection. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it's more than just toys for you because you've bought apparel, you've bought hats, you've bought shirts. And Rick and Morty is really something you identify with. It has been for the last 3-4 years that it's been on air.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
That's another show I really need to give a second chance because I've only seen like probably the first 8 episodes, almost the entire first season except for the last 2 or something like that. But
yeah, I think they get better and better.
Yeah, I need to give it another chance. 4
really opened the door to some real more complex building of the characters. Like they definitely took chances in this season, growing characters out of their previous shells. So I really applaud them for taking that risk because it did divide the fan base. You had a lot of bandwagoners, people who joined when 3 came out and they were bashing 4 because in their opinion, it wasn't as comedic as 3. But at the same time, like they had like deeper stuff going on in the episodes wrapped up in their level of comedy. The Vada Acid episode, such a big divider in the Rick and Morty community. Like people, you either loved or you hated. And I thought it was pure genius. I thought it was genius.
I liked it.
All right.
And the next 2 are going to be good.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to number 2.
Okay.
And probably you guys didn't pick this, but I had to put this on my list because honestly, if it wasn't for my number 1 choice, this would probably be my number 1. So, and that would be Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal. The name of the series is called Primal. It's an animated show. It's been there's only like 1 season that's been released, even though it started in 2019, and this second, it's like they released the first 5 episodes. The first season, part 1 of season 1 released in 2019, and it was 5 episodes, and then the next 5 episodes of the first season released this year.
I see.
And basically, it's set in so it's a total of 10 episodes. So if you wanted to sit down and watch this, and they're short too, I think they're like 15 minutes, 19 minutes long.
You could
You
binge
could
it.
watch the whole, season in a day or an afternoon or an evening. And it's essentially like the series follows these two characters set in this, like, it's kind of a fantasy prehistoric setting,
Yeah, he's like a caveman kind of.
And it's like, it's like a prehistoric era, but there's a lot of fantasy elements, going on. And the main characters are this caveman named Spear, and then a Tyrannosaurus named Fang, and they're kind of like the two main characters.
Right.
And the way that in the first season, which was in 2019, the way they meet, the first episode, it's one of the best, probably, if you want to call it the pilot of the show, I guess, one of the best like first episodes I've ever watched, probably in a series in a long time, probably since Futurama. Futurama's always, like, to me, had the best pilot of a series that I ever watched. And the way they set this series up with that first episode in Primal is just really amazing. It's like, it's done in a very action-filled way, because the show is very action-packed, but at the same time, it's very heartfelt, and then that's kind of like the sort of running theme of this series. You know what I mean? It's like, I said, it's set in the prehistoric times, and basically it's kind of like a Monster of the Week show, because they're always these two characters. You're following them just trying to survive in this like prehistoric wasteland. I mean, it's not a wasteland, because they do, some areas they go into are like very like pretty and full of like life and flowers and beautiful backgrounds and stuff like that. But then other times they get into these areas that are just like full of these like deadly monsters and creatures, and they're always just like trying to, they get into these like jams, and they're trying to like get out of them and just like try to stay alive, keep each other alive, basically. And they sort of like, and it's not like a sort of like a man and his dog series.
Yeah.
The Tyrannosaurus Rex, the Fang character, isn't really like a pet. It's almost like a companion. It's like a friend, almost like a partner, if you will. That's kind of how they establish these two characters.
Yeah.
And that's how they play off each other, which I thought was very well done and like original, because it would be so easy to just do that sort of trope of like a man and his dog, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But they're really more, they establish them as like equals, and almost like kind of like two sides of the same coin, these characters, this man and this this dinosaur, and so and really the series is, this season, this second half of the first season is just a continuation of the first season, as far as like their episodes, getting into these jams and just trying to survive. And the season finale that they do is really, really, because they introduce like a new character, because it focuses mainly on those two, and they introduce this new character that shows up, which like kind of opens up like a whole other like realm of possibilities with the show. So and they almost kind of leave it on a cliffhanger almost, or at least like a tease to like what may happen. And it has been renewed, so there will be a next season. Did we lose Harry? Is anybody here? Kev? Hello? You there? Are we still going?
Terrible internet. Yeah, we're still going.
Okay, all right. Here, I think we lost Harry. He's completely frozen.
Yes, we lost him. But speaking of that, that's Adult Swim, right? The Primal.
Yeah, it's on. It comes on. It's like Rick and Morty is actually coming on, or premieres on Adult Swim. I think I forget it. I think it's a weekly show. I'm not sure. But I've been watching it on. I'll either watch it on Adult Swim's website, because they actually have free episodes there, or I think the first part of season 1 is on HBO Max. I don't know if they released the second part yet, but it is. Some of the episodes are on HBO Max, so you can watch it there as well. I would just go to Adult Swim because you don't even have to. I don't even think you have to have an account. I think you can just go to their site and watch the 3 episodes. You have to watch commercials, I think, but
I've watched most of the show already.
And you know, I didn't mention it before, but you know, Genndy Tartakovsky, you know, he's done numerous things that everyone like fans have loved. You know, Dexter's Lab. The original animated Clone Wars, the 2D animated Clone Wars. Hotel Transylvania, all those movies. He's done all those. He's directed all those.
Well, those are all good.
You know, animation veteran. Like this guy is like, to me, he's like we totally lost here. This guy, this Genndy Tartakovsky guy, is a genius to me. He's like creative. He's one of my favorite animators, animation directors. I love his style because another cool thing is like his shows are kind of infused with his like personal style. You know what I mean? Like, because it's cool when you have because an animated show, you've got like tons of artists working on it. So I always love it when, or I appreciate it when an artist can like have their personal style carry through, even with all these other people working on a show. It's kind of cool. But and it's like, so you've seen it, Kev? Have you seen any episodes?
I've seen 2 to 3 episodes of it. I've enjoyed all of them.
And it's like, it is super violent though. It is. Yeah. I guess if you let your kids watch violent stuff, I would say it's fine. But it's definitely not for kids. I wouldn't let little kids watch it. I mean, it is like super, super violent. It's like comically violent almost sometimes. It's super bloody. Like I said, when they meet up with these creatures, they destroy these creatures. Usually, almost every episode ends with them like destroying these fantasy creatures that are always trying to eat them or kill them or whatever. they don't just like run away and get away. No, they decimate whoever is like trying to take them down. So that's another refreshing thing about the show. It's just it's unlike anything I've ever seen as far as like this sort of type of show, because we've seen a dinosaur and caveman shows before. There's been plenty over the years, but there's never been one that's so violent and so action filled. At the same time, it has a lot of heart. You know what I mean? So you can watch it and you can get that sort of action movies itch scratched, but you can also enjoy the drama that's part of the series as well. So
what platform is this show on?
It's on Adult Swim. It's like a weekly show. I think it's weekly. But it premieres on cable, just like Rick and Morty, but on Cartoon Network, but during the Adult Swim block. But you can watch it on Adult Swim's website for free. That's where I've watched most of the episodes. And I think part 1 of season 1 is on HBO Max. So eventually.
So you would think that the remaining episodes will end up there too.
Yeah, eventually, if it's not already there, eventually all of season 1 will be on HBO Max. So
that's cool. I'm intrigued. I want to check it out.
Kev's already watched it. He loves it. I really think you'll like it. If you like action and dinosaurs and and you say
it's pretty gory too. That's another.
Oh, it is super, super violent, man. I mean, it is. Cool. The characters are. The character designs are slightly cartoony because that's the director's style, that he's known for. Yeah. But I think that's the part of that's sort of refreshing about it, because like you're not expecting it, and then all of a sudden, you these characters are like shredding these like other dinosaurs or bats or whatever the hell they're fighting. They're like just, and it's like bloody. It's not just like they cut away or anything. No, they show the violence.
The T-Rex is actually a character that can speak to the caveman.
He doesn't. He just he acts like a Tyrannosaurus Rex. He doesn't talk. He's like very
loyal to the caveman.
That's the other thing I love about the show is that it's like a silent show. Like none of the characters.
There's not a lot of dialogue.
There's like absolutely zero dialogue except for grunts.
Zero dialogue.
All the characters are just grunting.
Well, you would think realistic back then.
And like to me, I love that type of thing because it reminds me of like, stuff like Tom and Jerry or
Yeah,
Pink Panther or any
yeah,
show that's like,
Yeah.
a
yeah. There
silent.
was like action. It would stop. There'd be a caption, and something else happened. And
I love those like silent types of cartoons because it forces you to watch it. You can't like this
I hear
isn't a
what you're
show
saying.
that you can like put on in the background while you're doing
Right,
laundry.
right,
You
right,
got to
right.
sit down and watch it. You know what I mean?
Visually, you need to be into the show
Yeah,
to
it
get what.
forces you. But the thing is, you won't be forced to do anything because you'll be drawn into it. You know what I mean? Like
You'll
the
enjoy
It
it.
sounds
characters,
it sounds intriguing.
the
I've never heard
characters,
of it.
the storylines, and they're all episodic, but they do have sort of thematically. There's sort of an arc. It's not like a story arc or anything, I would say, but it's just that sort of theme of survival. You know what I mean? That continues through the whole series.
Well, for it to be your number two after the shows you've picked,
and like I said, it would be number one if it wasn't for number
that's
one.
saying a lot if you hold it in that kind of contention. And there's
Yeah,
no even dialogue. I'm very, very intrigued.
It just because, like I said to Kevin, Gendy Tartakovsky, to me, he's like a creative genius. He's one of my favorite creators out there.
Gotcha.
I wish he would, was kind of more popular. I mean, probably the most notable thing he's done are those, or I guess the most popular maybe, are those Transylvania Hotel Transylvania movies.
Yeah, those were big.
Oh, okay.
Which
so that
fun.
guy behind those did this.
He's done Dexter's Lab. He did Samurai
Jack. Oh, okay. Samurai Jack. Yeah.
The original, Star Wars, Clone Wars, animated, the 2D animation.
Right.
He did a series called Symbionic Titan, which was phenomenal.
So this is a guy that's got some pull with Cartoon Network, obviously.
He's an animation veteran at this point. I mean, he's been around,
That's cool.
And so he has a track record. I just feel like, it probably is just because he has a weird sounding name. He's just like not as like, he's not a household. He's not a household name.
Right.
People know his work. They just don't know who he is. So,
right. Maybe that's by his choice too. He's not one of those ones out there chasing that fame.
And that's the beauty of like cartooning and animation.
He's happy with the level of success he's had, and he doesn't want any more.
Usually when you're like a cartoonist, your creations are more famous than the creator.
Right.
So
most definitely.
I just tell everyone that I know about this series, anyone who loves animation, it's beautiful. Like the animation is phenomenal, and the new episodes look even better than the first ones.
Okay.
So he has, because he's doing a lot of work himself on this show. It's not like he's doing a lot of like.
He's not just a director position. He's in the trenches.
He is directing certain episodes. He's like storyboarding stuff, which is usually unheard of for a series. Usually you don't have a director actually storyboarding stuff. They hand that off to someone else, So, I mean, they have other artists doing
well, that's how invested he is in this project, obviously.
Yeah, you can tell it's a personal, idea he's had.
Caveman and dinosaurs, sign me up. I'm in. It sounds savage.
It's great. It is. And I know old David Blucher would love it.
Blucher, yeah.
If he hasn't
it might be better than Camp Cretaceous. You never know.
If he hasn't seen this, to me, honestly, I think he would be all over this. So
that's true. It's right up his alley.
Yeah, man. Just like dinosaurs and giant creatures flying around. It's
just needs Leonard Toys to get the license to do the fish.
It's like cavemen, dinosaurs, and giant monsters. That's like everything he loves, basically. So. If you're watching, Dave, I highly recommend you check the series out. Primal. Watch it.
Yeah.
That was your number two,
That's
right?
my number two. That's my number dose.
So with my number two, I'm going with The Boys season 2, and the significance of this pick for me to be as high on my list as it is stands as a testament to how compelling the story that this show has, because I was not a fan of the show with season 1. I actually never had Prime, and I got Prime just so I could check it out because I kept hearing more and more people talk about Carl Urban is in it. I love Carl Urban. He's a great actor.
He's awesome.
They were getting closer to 2 coming out, so I wanted to see season 1, check it out for myself. I kind of felt like we were coming in the year after Endgame, okay? 2020.
Right.
We're kind of like superheroed out. Like we just went through the whole friggin' MCU. So I was like, the last thing I want to do is watch a series about heroes, especially if it's not even Marvel.
Right.
Why should I give this show? I wasn't one of those people in '05 that loved Heroes on NBC. Like I wasn't one of those bandwagoners. It's like, oh, Heroes! I love this show. It's amazing. Because I was a real comic book fan and I love Marvel and DC. I wanted to see real comics on TV. Not something that somebody in a boardroom just drew up and made a marketing idea. But that's what I thought The Boys was, and boy was I wrong. I mean, the guy that created this series.
It is based on a comic, correct?
Apparently it is. There is a graphic novel or book based on this world, and the guy that created these characters is someone who is not a fan of Marvel and DC. He thinks people that rely on heroes to solve problems, it means that we're always going to be waiting for someone. We're always going to take the back seat to dealing with issues ourselves if we're waiting for heroes. That's his point of view.
Yeah, kind of like a codependent relationship.
Right. And it's transparent in the world that he's created. I just think the people behind translating that story from book to TV have done an amazing job of sucking you into this universe, and you feel like you've been there this whole time. It's so familiar and believable, and the world is so like tangible, and it does never at any point does it seem unfathomable, other than the abilities of the heroes. That the world they're living in is very, very money centric. It's corporate driven. There's a religious fascist. There's everything that goes on in our actual society is just amplified to a storytelling way in this world where these powered people exist. And I think the cast is phenomenal. I mean, season 2 was even more gratifying than 1. I binged both, love both, can't wait for 3. I know Dean from Supernatural is going to be joining season 3.
Oh, that's cool.
I believe he's going to be actually someone who is assisting Butcher. So he's not going to be powered. So he's going to be a human helping Butcher, which is cool. He's going to fill that void because I guess some of the team are dropping off. So they're filling his role to help Butcher. And I love the story arc between Butcher and Homelander and Butcher's wife. I just thought that the love triangle there and the intrigue of it and the build up to it was done so expertly. So it's definitely worth checking out. That's why it's my number 2.
As another superhero type show that, in any other time I probably would be all over. It's just like so much stuff going on. It's like I gotta watch it eventually though. I've heard so much good things about it.
My number 2 is Carl Urban, The Boys. I picked that one as well. Same thing. I actually was very late to watch it. Harry kept saying you need to watch.
I kept telling Kev, bro, this is right up your alley, dude. And EMS, this is the kind of shit I know you see every day, but you need to see it on this show.
I lost service.
Kev Free.
We hear you though. We can hear you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Starlight. Starlight can hear you.
What?
Okay, I'm back.
Okay,
there
back.
You
are.
Jesus, the Lord. Anyway, yeah, I think it's a kind of refreshing because it's a whole different take on the world of the superhero, the vigilantes. I think it's really a more gritty, realistic approach to telling a story about this.
Yeah.
Because you give me superpowers, I'm not gonna lie, you give me superpowers, and I'm probably gonna end up pretty rich. So, I mean, I think it's more realistic.
It is very realistic in the way they've integrated the corporate society we have now, where all these corporations are really choosing the path of our country. They are deciding things. The government is listening to what the corporations say.
So there's a lot of So there's a lot of like satire in the show, like political.
Yeah, there's
Most
a lot of
definitely.
politics, a
Most
lot of
definitely.
corruption.
They're commenting on current events in the guise of this.
Most definitely, they are playing on current events, but they're doing it so tastefully and in a way that it does still provide escapism. But I mean, the acting is the effects. I mean, they've poured a lot of money in this series, and it shows.
Yeah, everything looks really good just from the previews.
God.
It looks cinematic.
Yeah.
It looks like it should be a movie.
It does. It feels like a movie. I mean,
yeah, I gotta get on it, man. I gotta watch it.
It's a good one, bud.
What is it? Is it two
It's
seasons?
on Prime. It's exclusive to Prime.
Amazon
Only 2 seasons.
Right? And see, the thing is,
You can't watch it elsewhere.
I just always forget about Amazon Prime because
A lot of people do.
I've always had Prime.
A lot of people do. A lot of people get Prime for the shipping, not for the streaming service. I hate Prime's layout. I hate the way you navigate Prime. I hate it.
I don't like it either.
It's one of the worst, clunkiest menus. Like, you never know what's fucking watchable and what isn't. Like, nope, you got to pay for that. I'm like, oh, my son. All right, what about this one? No, you got to pay for that. Yeah, you can watch this one. I don't want to watch that one. Like, I hate their layout, but The Boys makes all that worth it. It's so good.
I need to check it out. I gotta watch it. Kev, you got any more thoughts on The Boys?
No. I think you'd enjoy it. I would definitely suggest it.
Yeah, it almost sounds like it has like a Watchmen vibe to it. So I definitely feel like I would enjoy it. And I mean, almost like Watchmen, the book. You know what I mean? Because it had a lot of like political satire and references to what current events at that time.
Plus, Carl Urban is just so kick-ass in it. He's so good in his role.
Yeah, I loved him. I loved him in the new Star Trek movies.
Right.
And of course, I loved him in Dredd.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
he's been in some big properties. I mean, he's a big action guy.
I even liked him in that Disney Pete's Dragon remake they did.
I didn't even know he was in that, but now that you told me,
dad in that movie.
Now I want to watch it because I know he's in it.
He was, he just played the typical dad role, but he was still Carl Urban. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I guess now it's time for the.
This is where we all say Mandalorian.
Now it turns into the Mandalorian show.
This is where we all unanimously say Mandalorian season 2.
Welcome to the Mandalorian discussion. The Savage Podcast Mandalorian. Because that is number one. I think that's everyone's number one.
Yeah, it's my number one, so we don't have to waste time jumping.
So over. I think we can just jump into because I'm eager because we had talked about doing this all season long and we never did. So, gosh, where do we start, guys? I mean, to me it was a continuation of what we had, before, even better. I think it just the quality.
Right.
Just the quality, of it. It looks so good. It looks like you forget you're watching TV, when you're watching this,
Right. Yeah.
And man, gosh, I don't know. Honestly, I think one of my biggest takeaways from this series or this season of this series is it almost feels like it almost like, for me, the most important, thing the series or the season did was the stuff they did with Boba Fett, honestly. And I'm not even like the biggest Boba Fett fan, you know what I mean? But I feel like for those
he is one of the biggest.
for those fans, like you must those Boba Fett diehards must be like crapping their pants after watching the season.
Well, Kevin, wouldn't you argue that if not for Boba Fett's iconic look and the little bit of time he had in the original trilogy, if not for fucking Boba Fett being as amazing as he was for the little bit of time we got him, there would be no Mandalorian show.
Harry, that's why I'm bringing it up. You know what I mean? Because like that character is like almost essential.
He created
it's
that.
Like, it all sort of like birthed from him. You know what I mean? So, I think like them. I've personally like loved what they've done with him. Like I know a lot of people have like criticized like his look and how they changed it and cleaned up his helmet and he's wearing like a skirt and all that stuff. I love all of it. Like I don't think
he was swallowed by the Sarlacc. I mean, God, I mean, forgive him if he's not.
Like I love them. To me, that was like a great sort of like just the progression of that character. That it was a great sort of like. It was like an ending to his story that we knew, but it's also like introducing like a new future for that character. You know what I mean?
Right.
And giving him new life.
He is. He set up shop in Tatooine, and he wants to be the main guy now.
But other than aside from Boba Fett, I mean, just like bringing in like Ahsoka Tano is like to me like. It was like phenomenal. Like being, I almost felt like vindicated being a huge Clone Wars animated series fan. I've been watching that show. Like that show, like started in like 2008 or something like that. And like just like watching that show all these years and like telling people about the show all the time and like, hey, if you like Star Wars, you really need to watch this show. And people are like, that's for kids. You know what I mean? And now, like with, Dave Filoni, of course, being involved in Mandalorian, he, was involved with all the Clone Wars stuff. So naturally, he's going to want to like bring in a lot of those characters that he developed and established on that show. So to me, that was like amazing that they brought, her character in, even just briefly. But, it feels like this is a setup for her apparent, new series that they're going to do on all that stuff. So.
She looked good.
But honestly, I mean, going back to, the Clone Wars, I mean, Dave Filoni, to me, Dave Filoni is like the sort of the Kevin Feige of the Star Wars universe. Like, to me, he's like, I mean, I know a lot of people credit Jon Favreau, and they should, because, I mean, he's a big part of this series too, but I think a lot of that success and, credit should go to Dave.
Sure.
He's
Favreau will be the first to agree to that if you ask him.
I think he's just a key component to the success of this series.
Definitely.
And it's sort of like couching it, doing something brand new and giving a fresh, feel to these characters, but still couching it in that sort of continuity of Star Wars, because he's like a Star Wars genius. He knows, like, he was like George Lucas's like right hand man for years, so he's like almost like the new, this generation's George Lucas, if you will. So.
He was basically George's apprentice.
Yeah,
exactly.
Look at
it one
way
way.
Of putting it. That's a great way of putting it. So.
And he was the Sith Lord, and he passed all his knowledge to his apprentice.
There can only be two.
I've babbled enough that you guys can talk more.
But Kev, let's talk about the decision to bring Skywalker in the finale, like the magnitude that did, like the ripples it did in the entertainment world, the fact that they brought Luke into this universe, the way that all of us wanted to see him post Return of the Jedi. We didn't get that with the Disney trilogy. We were given this broken down Luke that didn't have these beliefs anymore in the Jedi Order.
Right.
He was a half shell. It was one man's created vision to do that. He loved turning the fans of this saga against themselves. He really loved dividing. That director of Last Jedi wrote a snippet saying, I would rather make a movie that is controversial than universally loved, because that means my movie's going to be remembered longer because it caused controversy. Like, he publicly stated that before he was given the helm of The Last Jedi.
Well, he succeeded in that.
Whether it's canon or not, I mean, it was intense. I think it was amazing to decide to bring in Luke to be one of the Jedi left to try to pick up the kid. It was very intense watching him come in, and they had already showed you that these droids they had were almost invincible.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
He treated them like they were toys.
He barely survived fighting that one by himself. Din. Din barely survived that one, and he got off with a technicality the way he took that one out. So
then Luke dropped, and he just shredded everybody like nothing.
It was beautiful. It was like I could hear like symphony music in the background to that going on. It was like so executed perfectly.
And you can, and it just like the way they did it, you know, like with the sort of like slow reveal because you didn't see who it was at first. I mean, we all knew
the build up.
You know, we all knew.
In your heart, you wanted it to be Luke, but they weren't giving you validation right away. They were making you second guess.
Yeah, and that was a great sort of like suspense building moment. It was a great way to tell that story, you know, in that scene. You know what I mean? A genius way of doing it, but. We all knew as soon as he turned on that lightsaber who it was.
Yeah, once we saw it.
I mean, but it was a great build up, you know what I mean? And it you know, it was just
an excellent work. This is just a TV show. The CG or whatever they used, I mean, it was spot on. They did.
I mean, the people that are bitching about it not looking enough like Mark Hamill, that part to me is baffling.
They're dropping.
I thought it was phenomenal.
Good production shows. The Mandalorian always puts on.
They've come a long way with this tech that they used. That if you go back to Rogue One and you look at Tarkin and Rogue One and you look at that Luke, you can clearly see which one is a CGI character and the other one blurs reality.
I mean, at that point when he like disrobed and showed his face, I was so amped up, like I didn't give a crap what it looked like.
Dude.
You know what I mean? Like,
I was hitting my wife's arm so hard, like out of like a baboon. I was just like,
I was like, we were just in shock, you know, or I was just in shock, you know, in that moment, and just like so jazzed that this was happening, you know. So
it was.
I mean,
suddenly we were all 8 years old again, and there was Luke dressed in black with his lightsaber. With his robotic hand, using the Force, using the saber, saving the day, being the Luke Skywalker that all of us still believe he is in our hearts, and we didn't get that from the Disney trilogy.
And you could tell just by the fact that they did it and the way they did it, Harry, that you know, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni felt the exact same way, probably in their, you know, deep down, and they wanted to give that, you know, to those fans, and they probably wanted to see it too, you know what I mean? So so it was, I think, a phenomenal, you know, conclusion to this story, you know, this season, but it was also great fan service as well, you know what I mean? It was both. They succeeded in doing, because, you know, that doesn't always work. It's either like it's kind of like, you know, a tightrope that you have to walk, you know, whenever you try to do that. But to me, they like nailed it, you know.
Very intelligently. They know what iconic, you know. I mean, this year we got Ahsoka, we got Luke, we got Slave One, you know, Boba. Slave One is just as big a deal as Boba is. I mean,
iconic ship. Yeah. I guess my only critique of the series of the season would be is I felt like, you know, the series or the season ends with, you know, the door closing on Luke and everything. Honestly, I would have loved to seen like an epilogue, at least an epilogue, like a scene, maybe not a whole episode, but just like one sort of like concluding scene to sort of like kind of like wrap up and like sort of tease like what's, you know, where all these dangling plot lines are headed into the next season, I guess, you know what I mean? Even if it was just like a kind of one of those, you know, real quick, teasers or whatever that they do, or almost like a quick trailer or something like that. I would have loved to have seen.
Well, let me pose this to you guys. The Star Wars fan base is so divided and so negative at most times. There's generational differences. There's the how many times have you watched it? You know, you're beneath me kind of fan base. Like, I'm a better fan than you are, so my opinion counts more. So there's a selective group of them out there that are saying Mandalorian is going to fail now that they've separated Grogu from Din, and that you're not going to have him together, and the show's going to dissolve because of that the companionship that he felt for the child is going to be missing. So, do you feel that that is the case with this series, or can they take it to new heights by causing the distance between Grogu and Din Djarin?
I think if they stay with the formula, if we keep getting these great iconic storylines crossing into something new, I think it would do well still.
Yeah,
you know, I would love to see more about Mandalore.
I think. Yeah, right, Kev. That's a great point. You know what I mean? Like that storyline about how they tease with the Darksaber and the sort of like transfer of power of the Mandalorians and all that stuff. Like they definitely set that up. You know what I mean? So that's one of those dangling plot lines that I was talking about that they could definitely like dive into. You know what I mean? And you know, I was gonna say there's the Ahsoka stuff, but I guess they're probably gonna conclude that or continue that in her own series, probably. But and also just look at the a lot of the episodes like at the beginning of the season that a lot of people called filler episodes, if you remember.
Yeah,
the Frog Lady episode.
They could continue to do episodes like that and be highly successful with this show. You know what I mean? Like, because those were sort of like missions that sort of like, you know, like incrementally led him, or you know, concluded, you know, it was all sort of like, you know, based on, you know, Grogu and him like sort of like trying to find, you know, get him to his, you know, people, you know what I mean? But even still, you know, if you just remove that from that, you know, plot, you can still sit down and watch him, you know, like save a village from this giant sandworm, you know, like you could continue those type of stories, I think, you know, of the sort of like lone gunslinger, like going into the new town, because there were tons of like Western shows that had that basic plot, you know what I mean? Like the wandering stranger, even like, you know, series like Kung Fu and stuff like that. You had that wandering loner going from town to town, you know, getting into situations and adventures and stuff like that. And you know, they if they want to do that, they could easily do that, you know. But honestly, obviously, they're gonna, you know, dive into all this Mandalorian, you know, power struggle, and of course, you know, I'm really looking forward to seeing what, you know, is going to happen to Moff Gideon, because that's another kind of dangling thing. That they, you know, I mean, I don't think that character's going away. I think he's going to be around still. So, and honestly, I really do think Grogu is going to come back. You know what I mean? That character is so popular. Like, they're going to find a way to do it. I don't know if they're going to do like a time jump or what, but even if he comes back for the series, the season finale or something, he'll be back in some way. I think
so too. It's the bread and butter.
Yeah. But my gosh, I'm trying to think of what would you say there was like a standout favorite episode other than maybe like the finale? I really enjoyed those like quote unquote filler episodes that everyone was hating on. Like
every one of them had a purpose, you know. They served a point of, he was given the task to reunite the child with his kind, which are the Jedi, and they're not exactly all just located in one central location he can easily just fly to, and all the challenges that he encountered during that quest to get Grogu in the hands of the Jedi, and he did accomplish that.
Yeah. And those are like sort of like that those type of episodes, like those quote unquote filler episodes, like the first two, like that's the typical type of show or episodes that you would see like on Clone Wars, you know what I mean? Because like you have the characters like on a mission, but they would never go directly, you know, from point A to point B. They would always get like misdirected. They'd have to go here to do this and then there to do that, you know, that type of thing. And to me,
Filoni is good of crafting that world that you see beneath the surface. That is this very, very rich universe that we have here. That only a fraction of it has been developed, and there's so many possible stories going on.
Exactly. That's the one of the things that I love about Clone Wars is it explored a lot of like corners of the Star Wars universe that you didn't see in the movies and stuff like that. So
Right.
I would hope that they just continue that with this show because that's the thing because that was one of the reasons I loved Rogue One so much because it introduced us to like new characters, and their like new and their own like histories, personal histories, and
Right.
motivations and stuff like that. So
it made the scope larger to what we were condensed to by just film.
Yeah, and I really, especially with the Skywalker saga being over, I really think Star Wars has to do that to be successful, like, or to continue to be successful. Obviously, it's successful, but I'm loving it, man. I'm loving every minute.
There's a possibility, Kevin, that season 3 of Mando won't be ready in time this year, and we may have to wait until spring of 2022. What do you think about that if that happens?
Well, I mean, it sucks. It's a big deal. People love it, so
yeah, that would be.
There'd be a lot of happy people, but they'll wait just like everything else.
They have a lot of other projects on the stove, though. There's a lot of Star Wars live action being planned, and Favreau and Filoni are carefully managing all those too. Thankfully.
Yeah.
Cassian and K2SU, they're gonna have a show leading up to the events of Rogue One. So you're gonna see Cassian rise in the ranks of the rebellion, how he became a captain, what he did to earn the rank. I mean, it's gonna be weird all these years later seeing him in this role alive again, leading up to the events of Rogue One. But give it to us, we want it for sure.
Yeah. I don't know. I probably would. I'm trying to think of all those new series that are coming. I know the Ahsoka show. I'm very interested in.
Obi-Wan is already filming in London now.
Obi-Wan, that'll be great.
That's supposed to be one shot, one season. It's not going to span multiple. They're going to tell the story of him going to Tatooine leading up to the events of New Hope. That's what it's going to capture in 8 episodes.
Yeah.
That's cool. At least we get something.
We'll take it.
Yeah.
Ewan is ecstatic to reprise the role. He's head over heels being able to wield a lightsaber again and don the robe.
And honestly, to me, he was like the highlight of those prequels. I mean, I love watching him play Obi-Wan because I felt like he did a great job of like
amazing
homage to Alec Guinness, but still he made the character his own at the same time.
He took that spotlight of that mantle of that great actor who was in the first film, and he projected himself the best possible way as the same character in that guy's footsteps.
Yeah. He played that role phenomenally, I think, and he played it with like kind of a sense of humor too, which I always appreciated. You know what I mean? Which you didn't, get that from the original version of Obi-Wan.
Well, that's the part about Ewan's acting capabilities that makes him so. He's a high demand actor. He could have easily turned down, like some of these other high nose Hollywood types would have said Star Wars again, no thanks, done that. But Ewan is happy to throw himself back to this very, very negative force of fans that are so complainy and whiny and divided, and here he is coming back open arms, and he's going to shuffle through all that just to provide us this Obi-Wan series.
Yeah, it'll be.
Rumor has it they've already got a contract on Liam Neeson, so we will be seeing Force Ghost, Liam Neeson, cool. Qui-Gon on the Obi-Wan series. So that alone is worth the price of admission.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty sweet because he said they tell him at the end, right? He's got to go train with them.
Mm-hmm.
That he learned to
That's the part where Yoda's like Qui-Gon.
And they established at the end of at the end
Revenge of the Sith.
At the end of the original season finale of the Clone Wars show, because they brought back, they made a new season, which has come now the final season. But at the end of that series, they established there was an episode where Yoda was hearing these voices like from the Force, and he like investigated it, and he basically discovered that that the Jedi could communicate.
Beyond
the episode established that Jedi could communicate with other Jedi that have
past Jedi that have fallen,
and they had Qui-Gon, and they actually had Liam Neeson playing himself, or Qui-Gon in that episode.
Awesome.
So they've already made references to that. You know what I mean? So
give me more of that. I'm down for that. Qui-Gon Jinn is the man. Cool.
Yeah, that'll be phenomenal. So yeah, it's like, I feel like we're just like, it's like an embarrassment of riches with all these like Star Wars shows, man. It's gonna be kind of like what I was saying with superhero shows. There are gonna be so many Star Wars shows out that it'll be hard to keep up with all of them. You know what I mean? So
sure.
I mean it's awesome, and I think they're bringing back Clone Wars, and then they're also doing like an anime type Star Wars show. So there's even animation stuff that they're doing. So I feel like they've got something for everybody, old and new.
That's cool.
But yeah, Mandalorian though, gosh, man, I just like
best show of 2020, hands down.
I mean, honestly, I really do feel like it's been better. I can really confidently say that I've liked it way better than the new Star Wars movies that they did.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Even though I don't hate on those as much as everyone else does, like if I had to sit down and watch, all of them again, I'd immediately watch Mandalorian over, those movies. So
they had to scramble to salvage what they could, because the J.J. Abrams trilogy had caused so much losses of revenue, especially in merchandise.
Yeah,
there was so much shit from Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and the Last Jedi that just didn't sell. No. It's just clearanced out, sold to resellers.
Yeah,
like the numbers were down, so they needed to grab. So Favreau and Filoni have come in and they've offered their hand. And
he salvaged them.
Yeah, it's too bad they didn't just let them, do the new trilogy. But oh well, it is what it is. I mean, I'll if they had done, the original trilogy, we probably wouldn't have gotten Mandalorian. So I mean, I guess if we had to
take that hit to get that. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah,
it's symbiotic. It's symbiotic. That was the best show of 2020. I think we all unanimously agree, and even David would probably put this over Camp Cretaceous. So,
yeah,
easily
agreed.
I don't think we have to convince anybody to watch it, but
yeah, the whole world. I mean,
but if you haven't seen it,
it's brought so many casuals to this franchise.
My brother, he's not a huge Star Wars fan. I mean, he likes Star Wars. We watch it, the originals.
Yeah.
I don't think he's like watches. I don't think he likes the prequels that much. But I told him, I was like, you got to watch this Mandalorian show, and like he like loves it. Like I think he likes it better than the OG, Star Wars.
And that's what Disney's after. That Disney is after the sheer common everyday person. How much Star Wars stuff are they going to buy if they like this show?
And that's the
end game.
Right. Yeah, and he's not a Star Wars collector at all. And then all of a sudden he was like,
he's buying Baby Yoda merch.
He was like, I want to get a Mandalorian pop and I want a figure, and then he wants all his
Mandalorian cereal, Mandalorian on the Lay's potato chips, like the marketing, it just never ends.
He's into it that much that he actually wants
the little pre-packaged birthday party kits for kids with the plates and the napkins. Mandalorian flying off the shelves.
That's a big thing for him to, as someone who's never collected Star Wars, to get hyped enough to go out and buy stuff.
That's a big ass cha-ching for Disney in the check-in.
So he's hooked. They've got him hooked, so.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, it's great, man. It's a good time to be a Star Wars fan, I think. I really do.
It is. And so what a good turnaround, like you're saying. It just,
Yeah.
I mean, those last 3 movies were
Mm-hmm.
felt like a flop, but I think Rogue and
They
Mandalorian.
divided the fan base. The old and the casuals were divided, and
Yeah.
the Disney, the J.J. Abrams trilogy did more damage than good to the saga.
Yeah.
But I think it is time to say goodbye to all these characters, and we need to dive into another part of the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, I totally agree, Kevin. Like, I would love it if we never heard Skywalker uttered ever again.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I love, Luke Skywalker. I love the Skywalker.
Yeah, C-3PO, they're all wonderful.
I like all those movies. I even like the newest ones that have come out. You know what I mean? To an extent, but
right.
It's time. It's just like I said about The Simpsons. It's time to let that go, so we can appreciate it, more later on and move on to something new and fresh. And it's like Harry says, there's a whole universe out there to explore with Star Wars. So
we've only seen a very narrow scope of it.
Right. They can go anywhere with it. They can go way the hell back.
There's other forces outside of Sith and Jedi that are just as powerful.
It could get crazy.
It could. Will. I mean, they've explored a lot of that stuff, Harry.
I don't want them to dilute it though, and to the point that there's a Camp Cretaceous Star Wars show. Like, if it's getting to that point, then there's a problem. Then they're just milking it, and then your hardcore fans are gonna the base is gonna fall out.
That might be,
and then the casuals.
I get exactly what you're saying, Harry. That might be my only concern with all these shows, is that it could get to that point. But I mean, as long as they can, keep that high level of quality, I mean, I guess that'll be a good thing for fans at least. But yeah, I totally get it. We don't want it to become, completely diluted, and it would end up being more damaging than beneficial. So
they could take something like in the movies. You remember the mention of, what was it, Dark Plagueis? I think the one that can bring people back to life. Maybe we can have that time.
He was Sidious's master. Yeah, Sidious was the apprentice to Pelagius.
Yeah. That might be a cool little time frame.
Yep.
Or even further, Old Republic.
Well, they're investing all this money in this High Republic storyline. It's like 1,000 years before the event of the Skywalker. So, Jedis were more prominent. Sith were. It's kind of like Knights of the Old Republic, but it's like they're differentiating themselves from those video games and setting some other. So I don't know where it's gonna go. Like, if it's gonna succeed or not, only time will tell.
I'll just say real quickly, just going back to the Mandalorian, the series. To me, one of my favorite things was they brought back Bill Burr's character. From the first season. I wish I could remember his name, the character's name. I had it in my head. And
that was cool. Yeah, the little.
We just call him Bill Burr.
Because I love Bill Burr, and it was so fun to see, his character.
And he's not of it. He will tell you point blank that he hated Star Wars movies. He don't care about them. But when he was approached by Favreau to be in it, and he took the role, he gets why there's such a loyalty to why the fans are as eccentric as they are.
And I was critical of his acting skills in the first season. But he seemed way more comfortable this time around. It seemed way more natural. His acting seemed way more natural. He was way better this time.
It was great. It was a great episode.
He was a lot of fun to watch.
I find that episode far from filler, because it was a necessary connecting activity that led up to the events of being able to track Gideon's Star Destroyer. Which no one can explain to me why Gideon's Star Destroyer looks like a butt plug. No one has brought that up. I want answers. why this is like who like what inside sick joke is that? Like who did that?
Sick bastards.
Nasty.
Hey, we lost our Razor's Crest.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was hard. That was hard.
Well,
It
we
was
got
right after the Hasbro crowdfunded one closed too. Like
Yeah.
it was like the very next day
It was
that episode airs, and like you could hear like it was like when Coruscant was blown up, like
Right.
or whatever
Alderaan.
planet. Yeah.
And what was that? Yeah, like that quote that Obi-Wan says in the first movie.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
like 1,000 screams in the middle of the
Like
night.
everyone had secured their deposit to be in the HasLab for that.
It was almost
vintage. And it's like, then air, go ahead and air it. We got the money. Go ahead, do it.
it was almost comical in that way. It was almost funny.
People were demanding refunds over that episode on the
Yeah.
HasLab Razor Crest.
I love the in those early episodes of the season and how how the Razor Crest kept getting like messed up like each episode,
And
And
he
then-
just
and then there's
passed
that
it to the
episode
best of
where-
his ability.
he goes to the Mon Calamari and they're literally like just like taping it together with like sticks and nets and stuff like that.
Rigging
And
it.
that was one of my favorite scenes at the end of that episode where he
Poor
comes
Razor
back to
Crest.
his
It
ship.
had a hard season. And then they
Mon
blew it to
Calamari-
pieces.
The Mon Calamari guy, like, pieced it all together, and he's just
Yeah,
sitting
he was
there like-
asking for his payment and for his credits.
He's like, Mon Calamari. Ugh. He's like pissed off, That was a good, like, humorous moment. There was
I
a lot
don't
of
speak
humor.
frog, lady. I love
Yeah,
that
there was
line.
a lot of more humor injected into this season that I.
What do you think about the homage to Alien in that episode with the frog lady, with the spider creature?
I thought that the character what's her face that was played by the comedian, she came back for an episode where she he let her babysit Grogu for like
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Danny DeVito's ex.
no, that wasn't her. It's a different actress, I think. But I thought that lady is almost like an homage to Ripley, just the way they have her dressed and
Right, right.
her hairdo and
You gotta
everything
take
like
this
that.
frog lady to this system. Blah, blah, blah. I just met her.
So, yeah, I thought all that was kind of like a nod to Aliens for sure. So
We'll see what we're gonna get out of that Alien Predator stories now. Aren't they supposed to be like series?
Possibly, yeah. I think they said FX was going to do an Alien show set like 10 years from now. So it's not like super in the future. It's around contemporary times, and aliens are on Earth somehow. I don't know. It's the same people that did another series on FX that was successful. So, the Fargo on FX. The same
Yeah.
people behind that are doing the Alien. Disney's giving them creative freedom, all the money they need. They're
That's
giving
cool.
them the reins to make an Alien TV series.
okay,
That's awesome.
That might be something we're all talking about in 2022 when we're doing this video then.
Yep.
true. It'll be interesting to look back and see what we talked about.
Be like, we were so full of shit.
Yeah, right.
But I'm glad we did this.
We'll
I'm
be
glad
like
we did this recording finally. So I was
We'll be
happy to
like-
get it out there, and
we'll be like.
I was
"That
very
show didn't
interested
come
by
out."
both of you guys' list, and definitely
Yeah.
taking away some ones that I want to look into myself now after hearing
Yeah.
your choices.
Yeah, just like the movies list, a lot of mine were animation, but you guys know that's my deal. So
You're a cartoonist, man. You are who you are.
I think
So,
I had a few.
and it was confusing too in this time that we're in, because like it's hard to remember or
Yeah.
decide like, did this come out in 2020 or
Right.
Right, you're
'cause,
right.
like some of the stuff was new to the streaming platform, but it was older, that it's already been released. And
Most people that work all the time, they have a backlog of shows, and the pandemic allowed them to watch stuff they had never had time for before.
Yeah.
they suddenly didn't have that excuse anymore. So they started,
Right.
the number of shows being streamed, and going back to the beginning of the conversation, traditional TV and cable is not a necessary component to watch the best stuff on TV now. It's all within the power of the streaming services and knowing which one to be subscribed to. It can be tricky. If you have all of them, that's like $100 every month. If you add it up, I can't afford to have them all. I need to be picky, and I need to see which one provides the most content I'm going to like more frequently than the other ones. When to pay Peter and not pay Paul, like when to cancel one and add another one. You know what I mean?
Right. It's like we're we're having to pay more, but we're getting a little more freedom and more choices, I guess, with our
watching on your own schedule. Giving granted the entire season right away in some cases. Not all shows are following that. Some shows
and their
do the weekly release.
You never got that before.
Do you feel a show like Mandalorian has to be done on the scheduled release? Because people would literally binge it when it launches and then ruin it for the world. They would get all the stuff posted on social media if they did the whole thing in one shot.
It then.
I mean, honestly, I kind of like them dropping episodes, one by one, because I'm kind of a patient person. Like, I can wait. You know what I mean?
You're experiencing that now, right? With WandaVision,
we got other stuff to watch too. It's not like that's the only thing in the world.
Yeah, there's so much entertainment out there, Kevin. Like, it's like I can occupy my time with something else until next week. You know what I mean? And like,
if you add anime and wrestling to the mix, like there's only so many hours, waking hours,
right? So it's like, to me, part of the fun is that anticipation.
Yeah, that is
until they can jack it right into your brain, Matrix style. Just all the episodes you instantly saw them when they jacked you in, and that's it.
Right.
You have your knowledge base, so you can be ready for the water cooler discussions.
Right. So that was a great conversation, guys. We had fun. That was Harry, a lot of fun, guys. I'm with you. I've been looking forward to this. I wasn't sure if I would, be able to come up with enough shows.
No, more than like you said. Yeah, I mean. You bring a whole other dynamic to the mixture of, so
the more
I love our variancies, and I love how we have enough in common, but we have enough that we dabble in other things. Like you're open to looking at Ozark now, whereas before that would not have been a show. You have too much other stuff to watch. You would have just had to pass over it.
Yeah, it just reminds me of that stuff that's on my list, that I need to tackle. So for sure. Yeah, man. So we'll have to figure out another top 10 or a top 5 list of something to discuss. So I like these top discussions. These are good.
Yeah, that is fun.
We could always just do top comedies of all time or something like that.
Yeah, your top 5 favorite.
Not narrow our field of what we can pick from, like your
top 5, your bottom 5 worst movies ever.
Yeah, because I think we're all.
He's obsessed with the worst stuff. He loves going and dabbling with the worst.
Yeah, I think that'd be fun.
He loves the worst.
Not every episode, but maybe like quarterly we could do one of these or something. One in the summer, one in the spring, one in the summer, one in the fall, maybe. Something to think about.
Sounds good.
See
Harry's top 5 or bottom 5 will be Dave's top.
Yeah, he's got an interesting sense of television for sure. You can't if you can say one thing about David, it's the fact that he has no shame in watching what he watches, and he's not going to be influenced by anyone but himself, what he dedicates his time to.
That's right.
He's like, I'm watching an episode of Monday Night Raw from 1985. Like it's so random.
And if you don't like it,
I relate to that because I'm the same way with like my cartoons and stuff. I'll like randomly watch some old cartoon no one's ever heard of, but I know about it, or I love it or something. So
you were missed on this cast, David. We'll just say that.
Yeah, it would have been fun to get his unique perspective on some of these movies we were talking about.
Well,
Maybe we could do like a toy show stream later on.
Yeah,
I got a ton of crap laying over
Definitely.
here. I got lots of junk.
Yeah, I'm working on. Hopefully, get on a schedule with my videos and stuff. So, dropped a couple new ones, but hopefully
I
I
like
can-
the one
that's
that you just put out. It was very good, very well edited
It was
and
good.
presented.
Clean.
one of my goals for the year. Other than also, just like everyone else does, try to lose a little weight and all that kind of stuff. Try to be a little more consistently creative and all that stuff. So,
Well, I
we'll see.
admired that.
We'll see what happens.
I admire that.
Same here.
Well, Kev, it's no secret that he just celebrated